Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kabir Naqvi, bringing you this special broadcast of top updates on the Israel-Gaza war, live from our studio here in the national capital, albeit styled by none other than Paul Moll, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into the news hour, the top focus, let me just tell you, for all the latest and trending developments, you can well log on to our news portal, ladies and gentlemen. Right here, I'm just going to take you through and show you what all is there for your perusal. Of course, we are tracking very closely how the US military is supporting Israel in the war against Hamas. There's a live blog that you can constantly get your updates from, ladies and gentlemen. Everything about Israel-Gaza war, but that's not all. We also have a special section on what's trending on the News 9 Plus application as well. Whether it's marketing for Mr. Kohli or a veteran's quest to redress history. We've got amazing nuanced perspectives on various documentaries for your perusal, and that's not all, from regional politics to chess pieces moving down south as well. News 9's news portal has in fact got all the stories out there for you. Entertainment, lifestyle, health, your own wellness. Well, we have it all, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about the former IPS officer alleging government targeting Muslims and Dalits, even as the Bharatiya Janata Party is now countering. And you've got various trending topics all throughout the day that you can peruse. But without wasting much time, without further ado, let's quickly focus on the Israel-Gaza war, ladies and gentlemen, because that is going to be our prime focus. So much has happened. Our focus remains on the war between Israel and Hamas, which has now entered its 5th day. The death toll is on a rapid rise as intense fighting continues from both sides of the divide, from the Gaza Strip and, well, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces in Israel. The death toll from the cross-border attack from Hamas has now crossed the 1,200 mark. 1,200 people at least that have been killed on the Israeli side. Of this, what's the most harrowing is that of this 1,200 mark, most are civilians, most are non-combatants, people who had nothing to do with this particular fight and war. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has suffered a total of 169 casualties so far. That number has also been updated. 169 IDF operatives, 169 members of the Israeli Defense Force have been killed in this war. This is the deadliest attack, mind you, in the last 75-year history of Israel. You're looking at constant bombardment of the Gaza Strip, even as there is imminent blackout. You talk about food, fuel, electricity, all that supply has been cut, along with water. And it's important to note here that the Gaza Strip gets 10% of its annual water from Israel. Now, Israel has vowed to avenge the attack with full might and reduce Gaza to nothing but rubble and ruins, which is exactly what the visuals tell us at this point in time as well. It has been carrying out massive airstrikes, visuals on your screens, and has still now struck more than 2,500 terror targets in Gaza. Buildings, major landmarks across the Gaza Strip, this open-air prison where about 2.3 million people live, with nowhere to go, all the border points sealed, the maritime boundary also being surveilled at this point in time. So actually nowhere, no way to go out, and constant bombardment. That on your screens is the result of that. More than 2,500 terror targets in Gaza have been hit, this being confirmed by the Israeli Defense Forces. Now, as the aerial operation continues, and these airstrikes, they continue in the dead of the night or right in the dawn, more than 300,000 reserve forces, that's about 3 lakh people, 300,000 reserve forces remain on standby. On the other side of the divide, the Gaza ministry has said that 1,055 Palestinians have been killed till now, and over 5,000 have been wounded due to the Israeli airstrikes. Well, now the IDF fighter jets in an overnight strike hit over 80 targets in the Beit Hanun area of the Gaza Strip. Amongst the various target points were 2 bank buildings which were used by Hamas to fund terror activities in the Gaza Strip. An underground tunnel and 2 operational command centers used by the Hamas to direct terror activities against Israel were also destroyed in the IDF raids and airstrikes. Death, destruction and humanitarian crisis for as far as the eyes can see. But the airstrikes did not stop just there. Also taken on target were 2 Hamas terror compounds used to manufacture and store weapons and also for training terrorists. One of these compounds was the headquarters of the commander of Hamas's Northern Brigade, a building linked to Louis Kapisha, an ex-prisoner and a senior operative in the Hamas's headquarters in Judea and Samaria, was also brought down in the air strikes by Israel. Meanwhile, in the Daraj Tufa area, the Israeli forces carried out airstrikes on more than 70 targets. The Daraj Tufa, that particular area too, has been used as a terror hub by the Hamas operatives to plan terror attacks against Israel. Well, the IDF carried out airstrikes and destroyed the Islamic University located in Gaza as well. Israel claims that the Hamas had transformed this institute of knowledge into an institute of destruction. Israeli authorities say that the Hamas was using the university premises as a training camp for terrorists and also as a center for developing weapons and gathering military intelligence. Meanwhile, the Israeli Navy has also been carrying out strikes at the Hamas's naval targets in Gaza. The Israeli Navy has blockaded the Gaza coast as it plans to fully cut off Gaza from all supplies like fuel, food, water and electricity. Airstrikes and strikes from their naval bases being carried out in the dead of the night. Those night vision visuals that you can see on your screens to better understand the magnanimity of the explosions. Well, now it's important to understand the geography of where West Bank is, where Gaza is in Israel. Gaza, particularly, has two major points. You've got the Ezra border on the north and the Rafah border on the south of Gaza Strip, which connects it to Egypt. Now, meanwhile, a lot of people that wanted to move into Egypt went to that border over the weekend. However, that Rafah border has been shut. Israeli forces also carried out strikes at Gaza's Rafah border that crosses with Egypt. Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt is the only one which bypasses Israel. Now, this border crossing was hit twice by the Israeli forces within a span of 24 hours. Trucks could be seen leaving the crossing as thick plumes of smokes could be seen at the site. As you can see, a complete blackout because power supplies have been down. Solar energy is not enough for the entirety of the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the Israeli offensive is not just limited to the Gaza region. Israeli forces are also keeping a close vigil on its border with Lebanon, where the Hezbollah terrorists have gathered. On Wednesday, the Hezbollah terror group launched anti-tank guided missiles at an Israeli army post on the northern border. The Israel Defense Forces responded with a drone strike on a Hezbollah post. There have been several deadly clashes on the northern border in recent days, some of them claimed by Palestinian terror groups operating out of Hezbollah-controlled southern Lebanon, and others by Hezbollah themselves. Essentially a two-front war. You've got the Hezbollah and other groups in southern Lebanon, and you have the Gaza Strip to take care of as well. Meanwhile, you also have to maintain your control over the West Bank area, another place that has seen major skirmishes in the past that have led to escalating tensions, the 11-day war in 2021 as well. But even as the Israeli retaliatory action continues, Israel is also gauging the extent of destruction which the Hamas terrorists caused in their unprecedented attack that was launched on Saturday. The Kfar Aza kibbutz, located just 3 kilometers away from the Gaza Strip, bore the brunt of the Hamas's attack on southern Israel. As the area has now been taken back under control, at least that's what the IDF is saying, by the Israeli authorities, Israeli officials and reporters went in to take a stock of the situation. What they saw left them in a state of shock and horror. The Hamas terrorists brutally killed men, women, and even children as they went door to door to wreak havoc. The Israeli soldiers found at least 40 infants and children whose bodies had been mutilated and decapitated. Meanwhile, the Hamas followed through on its threat, launching barrages of rockets from the Gaza Strip towards the Israeli city of Ashkelon. Thick plumes of smoke could be seen rising over the skies of Ashkelon as a fresh wave of rockets destroyed several sites in the coastal city. Now, only on Tuesday this week, Hamas had given a deadline to the residents of Ashkelon to leave as they planned to launch airstrikes. Well, now the Israeli forces are trying to secure their own skies, as the Hamas too is trying to infiltrate using the aerial route. The forces are keeping a constant eye on the skies, and air patrolling is being conducted in the area of Sderot, which is one of the major entry routes for the Hamas into the Israeli territory. Meanwhile, on ground, the forces are clearing the rubble from the streets after Hamas launched rockets, destroying several buildings in the region. Now, Sderot is the region which was the first one to be attacked by the Hamas, as it launched over 5,000 rockets into the Israeli territory.
देखिए, सबसे पहले मैं कि आपको सेड्रॉट में दिखा देता हूं, जिस घर के अंदर कई घरों के अंदर यहां रॉकेट गिरे थे। और देखिए, जिस घर में मैं आपको लेकर जा रहा हूं, ये वो घर है जहां पर अभी रॉकेट गिरा है, यानी यहां पर शेल अभी गिरा है। देखिए, पीछे की तरफ इस इलाके से यहां पर ये शेल गिरा है। मेरे कैमरा पर्सन और मैं आपको दिखाएंगे, हम आपको अंदर भी लेकर जाएंगे घर में, जहां पर हम अभी थोड़ी देर पहले यहां पहुंचे हैं। और देखिए, यहां से अभी एक शेल आकर इनके इस एरिया के अंदर जाकर हिट किया, अगर मेरे कैमरा पर्सन आपको दिखा पा रहे हो। और यहां इस घर के अंदर कितना डैमेज हुआ है ये भी मैं आपको दिखा देता हूं। देखिए, क्योंकि सेड्रॉट वो इलाका है जो बहुत करीब है खास तौर पर इन इलाकों में, और हमारी कोशिश यही है। देखिए, जब मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूं तब भी मुझे बम्बारमेंट की आवाज लगातार सुनाई दे रही है, लगातार यहां पर शेल फायर किए जा रहे हैं। और अब से थोड़ी देर पहले मल्टीपल रॉकेट्स आगे गए थे सेड्रॉट में, और इसी वजह से सेड्रॉट के इन इलाकों के अंदर लगातार लोगों में दहशत है। देखिए, इस घर के अंदर वो रॉकेट शेल आकर गिरे हैं, और अभी क्योंकि हम जब इस घर में आए तो उसकी एम्यूनेशंस की स्मेल हम महसूस कर सकते हैं। देखिए, यहां पर वो डैमेजेस हुए हैं इस घर के अंदर, और ये लाइव डैमेजेस, या फिर आप मैं कहता हूं लाइव शेल मैं आपको दिखाता हूं। देखिए, ये है वो शेल्स जो लगातार इस जगहों पर आके पड़े हैं। देखिए, ये आप देख पा रहे होंगे, यही वो रॉकेट्स के शेल हैं जो इस घर को बर्बाद किया है। और अगर मेरे कैमरा पर्सन थोड़ा सा अंदर और आए और दिखाएं कि देखिए, आपको नजर आएगा कि वो तबाही की मंजर या फिर तबाही की जो तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं बिल्कुल सेड्रॉट के इलाकों से, वो यही तस्वीरें हैं। और देखिए, अगर आप दिखाएं कि क्या इस समय आलम है, किस तरीके से डैमेजेस हुए हैं, पूरा घर का पिछला हिस्सा तहस नहस हो गया है। और देखिए, ये सेड्रॉट, और अगर आप देखें तो आपको धुआं नजर आएगा, आपको एम्यूनिशंस की स्मेल हम लोग यहाँ से महसूस कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा इन इलाकों को क्षति पहुंची है प्रतिमा। और देखिए, हर इलाके में, क्योंकि जो लोकल्स हैं वो इसलिए यहाँ दहशत में रहते हैं क्योंकि कभी भी यहाँ पर इस तरीके के अटैक हो जाते हैं। और देखिए, लगातार मैं और मेरे कैमरा पर्सन निशान जो हैं वो इन इलाकों में घूम रहे हैं, ना सिर्फ सेड्रॉट के इलाकों में, बल्कि आप कह सकते हैं कि जो दूसरे सदर्न इलाके हैं जहां पर सबसे पहले घुसपैठ की थी। और सेड्रॉट इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि यहीं पर मैं आपको बार बार बता रहा हूं कि सेड्रॉट में सबसे ज़्यादा इन्फिल्ट्रेशन पॉइंट से सबसे ज़्यादा घुसपैठ यहीं पर की थी। लोगों को स्टैंड पे, जो बस स्टैंड पे महिलाएं खड़ी थी 5-5, 6-6, उनको वहीं मार दिया गया, उनके गले काट दिए गए। जो मैस्केयर था, जो तबाही थी, वो यहीं पर हुई। और इसी के बाद उन्होंने इसी जगह के पुलिस स्टेशन को हॉस्टेज के तौर पर इस्तेमाल किया। तो देखिए, हम लगातार सेड्रॉट के इलाकों में, और दूसरी तरफ जो आप मेरे से दूसरा सवाल आप पूछ रही थी कि देखिए अभी क्या हालात हैं खासतौर पर इन इलाकों में, और किस तरीके से जो आईडीएफ ने कहा वो बिल्कुल सही कहा, क्योंकि जो बर्बरता की गई शवों के साथ, लोगों के साथ, महिलाओं के साथ, वो निश्चित तौर पर डराने वाली है। और ये शायद हमास की कोशिश भी यही थी कि ऐसा कुछ किया जाए ताकि दहशत भर दी जाए इजराइल के लोगों में। लेकिन शायद इजराइल का एक कहते हैं कि उनका एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि दे ऑलवेज बाउंस बैक। तो ये बाउंस बैक वाला जो सिचुएशन है या फिर जो अभी कंडीशन है वो इजराइल की है, और इजराइल इसलिए लगातार अभी गाजा पर ना सिर्फ अटैक कर रहा है बल्कि हमास के ऊपर भी ताबड़तोड़ हमले किए जा रहे हैं।
Well, our colleague Sumit Chaudhary over there, braving the conflict-ridden region and bringing you those live updates. What we're also picking up, especially from Sderot in southern Israel, is that a lot of Israeli forces and authorities have set up tents and relief centers and camps for all the soldiers out there, for all the people who are having difficulties traversing through these tumultuous times. There are tents for all the ration supply that is needed. There are tents for all the support and relief aid that people and the forces that have been deployed might need. Meanwhile, talking about international diplomacy around Israel's conflict with Gaza, because let's not forget, we've already been bringing you updates as far as the India, Middle Eastern, Europe economic corridor is concerned. We're talking about how Saudi Arabian Israel peace now looks a real flimsy affair. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has offered to mediate in the Hamas-Israel conflict. After Qatar, it's Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He said that Turkey continues to step up its diplomatic efforts. Now, Erdogan said that Turkey was ready for any kind of mediation, including prisoner exchanges, if parties request it. Erdogan has also expressed his concern on the situation in Gaza. He said that a complete blockade of the Gaza breached all human rights. He said that as per the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, no country can cut off the supply of electricity and water into the area. But the defense minister of Israel says that we're fighting animals and we'll have to treat them the same way. Let's listen into what Recep Tayyip Erdogan had to say, where he says that the country can not cut off supply of electricity and water into any area. But on the other hand, you also have United States President Joe Biden, who's backing completely Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. In a powerful and deeply emotional speech from the White House this past Tuesday, President Joe Biden strongly condemned the recent attacks by Hamas on Israel. The president didn't mince his words, calling these actions as sheer evil, and he made it clear that the United States is fully prepared to send additional military support to the region to stand by Israel. During his televised address, President Biden spoke about the horrific acts committed by the Palestinian militant group, which included the murders of entire families, horrifying sexual assaults on women, and distressing reports of infants losing their lives as well. Joe Biden also confirmed that at least 14 Americans have tragically lost their lives and some have been taken hostage by Hamas.
You know, there are moments in this life, and I mean this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. The people of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. We now know that American citizens are among those being held by Hamas. I've directed my team to share intelligence and deploy additional experts from across the United States government to consult with and advise Israeli counterparts on hostage recovery efforts. The United States has also enhanced our military force posture in the region to strengthen our deterrence. The Department of Defense has moved the USS Gerald R forward carrier strike group to the Eastern Mediterranean and bolstered our fighter aircraft presence. And we stand ready to move in additional assets as needed. I just got off the phone with a third call with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I told him The United States experience what Israel is experiencing, our response would be swift, decisive, and overwhelming. We also discussed how democracies like Israel and the United States are stronger and more secure when we act according to the rule of law. Terrorists purposely target civilians, kill them. We uphold the laws of war, the law of war. It matters, there's a difference. The loss of innocent life is heartbreaking. Like every nation in the world, Israel has the right to respond, indeed has a duty to respond to these vicious attacks. Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear. And when Congress returns, we're going to ask them to take urgent action to fund the national security requirements of our critical partners. This is not about party or politics. This is about the security of our world.
Well, so President Biden not mincing his words over there and vowing huge military support for Israel. And take a look at this. An Israeli cargo plane has landed back in Israel, delivering an initial shipment of advanced weaponry from the United States to Israel. The equipment was procured and brought to Israel by the Israel Ministry of Defense's DOPP, the U.S. Procurement Mission, and the International Transportation Unit. They coordinated the mobilization of the cargo plane, ensuring the direct transport of armaments from the United States of America. But that's not all. That's not all. In a resolute display of unwavering support for Israel amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, the United States has taken strategic measures to reinforce its presence in the region, signaling its commitment to maintaining stability and deterring potential threats. The U.S. Navy has executed a maneuver by dispatching its formidable nuclear-powered supercarrier, a proper fleet, a colossal vessel weighing an impressive 50,000 tons, boasting a complement of 5,000 dedicated sailors. This formidable naval asset has been strategically positioned in the eastern Mediterranean, and it is going to serve as a formidable show of force, a deterrence factor, as it were. What you're looking at is the USS Gerald R. Ford, the nuclear-powered supercarrier. And that's not all. You've got the Honda, you've got the USS Roosevelt, you've got the USS Ramage. All of these destroyers and a proper naval fleet is already on its way towards the Mediterranean to station over there to make sure nothing goes out of hand. Along with that, you've got the aircrafts, the F-15, the F-35, the A-10s. Those have also been stationed. Now, its primary mission is going to be twofold. Number one, to respond promptly and decisively to any potential threats and to thwart the illicit flow of weaponry to Hamas. Now, additionally, it will conduct vigilant surveillance of the maritime routes in the region as well. Moreover, the United States has bolstered its naval presence further by deploying several additional aircraft carriers that I was talking about, including the USS Normandy, the USS Thomas Honda, the USS Ramage, the USS Carney, and the USS Roosevelt, creating a maritime presence in the eastern Mediterranean. The US Air Force has also taken a proactive stance, stationing a squadron of advanced fighter jets in this region, which includes F-35s, F-15s, F-16s, and the A-10 fighter jet squadrons, ready to swiftly respond to any contingencies that may arise in this particular region. Now, these assertive actions demonstrate the United States' commitment to bolstering regional stability and ensuring the safety of its allies, while also sending a clear message of deterrence to potential adversaries. Now, the USS Gerald R. Ford is a 90,000-ton magnanimous supercarrier. It also includes the USS Normandy, the Thomas Honda, the Ramage, the Carney, and the USS Roosevelt. All of these together have been deployed in the eastern Mediterranean. You have the nuclear-powered carrier that has been sent as a deterrent for escalations in Israel. And the Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 have been put on standby near Israel. All of this as part of United States' aid to Israel. Well, meanwhile, News 9 brings you a report from the Israeli border with Lebanon. Take a look at this. Our colleagues have been stationed on the ground. They're braving the conflict-ridden region, bringing you these true and actual reports.
मैं इस वक्त इजराइल और लेबनान के बॉर्डर के पास हूं और जैसे जैसे हम इस रास्ते में आगे बढ़ते गए हमने देखा कि किस तरह से इजरायली डिफेंस फोर्स लेबनान वाली अपनी सीमा पर अपनी सेना की ताकत को बढ़ाने में जुटी हुई है। हम सबसे पहले आपको दिखाते हैं, देखिए सामने में आप ऊंची ऊंची पहाड़ियां देख रहे हैं। दरअसल इजराइल के इस हिस्से में आपको इस तरह के जो है वो संरचना दिखाई देती है। आप देखिए कि इन पहाड़ियों के बीच में से जो रास्ता जाता है वहाँ पर देखिए सामने में हमारे कैमरा सहयोगी अमित आपको दिखा रहे हैं कि कई सारे जो टैंक हैं उन सब टैंकों को यहाँ पर लेकर आगे बढ़ा जा रहा है। और इसके अलावा बहुत सारे मिलिट्री पर्सनल्स को मैंने रास्ते में देखा, उनकी गाड़ियां देखी, बहुत सारे मिलिट्री व्हीकल्स देखे जिसमें ट्रूप्स आगे बढ़ रही है और इस तरह से बड़ी संख्या में तैनाती हो रही है बॉर्डर पर, क्योंकि सामने जो चुनौती है वो इजराइल की नज़र में एक बड़ी चुनौती है और वो चुनौती है हिजबुल्लाह की। लेबनान का एक ऐसा मिलिट्री ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो काफ़ी पावरफुल है और इजराइल डिफेंस फोर्सेस और लेबनान के हिजबुल्लाह के बीच जब जब लड़ाई हुई है उसमें हार और जीत का फैसला नहीं हो पाया है और इसी वजह से इस बार इजराइल अपनी पूरी ताकत लेबनान सीमा पर भी लगाना चाहता है, क्योंकि उन्हें शक है कि हमास की मदद के लिए हिजबुल्लाह भी यहां से एक्शन कर सकता है। और यही वजह है कि बॉर्डर से लेकर और इजराइल के भीतर लगभग 30-35 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर, और इस वक्त आप देखिए कि कैमरे पर आपको बहुत सारे इस तरह के ट्रूप्स और दूसरी व्हीकल्स जाते हुए हमें दिखाइए जरा सा। फिर देखिए रोड पर जो दूसरे और लोग हैं, दूसरे और मिलिट्री व्हीकल्स वो आगे बढ़ते हुए। तो अब आप देखिए कि इस तरह का डेवलपमेंट आपको दिखाई देता है, काफ़ी करेज और दूसरी तरह की तमाम जो रसद सामग्री है वो सब भी यहाँ दिखाई दे रही है कि जो लेकर ये बॉर्डर की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं। तो आप देखिए कि लोग आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, लोगों के साथ साथ ट्रूप्स जो है वो उनकी पोजीशन है। और मुझे एक बात और जो यहाँ पर इम्पोर्टेंट दिखी कि बॉर्डर से करीब 35 किलोमीटर भीतर तक इन्होंने अपने टैंक और दूसरे मिलिट्री इक्विपमेंट्स को इन्होंने पोजीशन कर रखा है। तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि इजराइल अब अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए किस कदर तैयारी में जुटा है ताकि वो दुश्मन के किसी भी चुनौती का सामना कर सके। और यही वजह है कि इजराइल उन सभी दुश्मन देशों को पर नज़र भी बनाए हुए है जो इस सिचुएशन का फ़ायदा उठाने की फिराक में लगे हुए हैं। और ऐसे में सबसे बड़ी स्थिति का सामना होगा जब उत्तर यानी कि इजराइल के नदर्न इलाके में जो इजराइल लेबनान बॉर्डर पर जो स्थितियां अभी बन रही है उसका इजराइल किस तरीके से सामना करता है।
So over the last 5 days we've sort of decoded where is all of this happening. It's happening in southern Israel, the Gaza Strip, the north, the border with Lebanon, and of course all these major players of the Arab world on the periphery. We've also spoken about why it is so unprecedented. But what we haven't spoken about is why Al-Aqsa, which was actually the name of the entire operation of the Hamas, the Al-Aqsa typhoon, the Al-Aqsa flood, the Al-Aqsa Mosque premises and the Temple Mount, why is that at the heart of this particular crisis? We must understand the significance and importance of the Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa to really understand why this conflict is taking shape. Now, in the heart of Jerusalem's old city, the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound stands as a pivotal symbol in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, drawing global attention due to its profound significance and ongoing disputes. This sacred site, where Islam, Judaism and Christianity converge, encompasses the iconic Dome of the Rock that you can see, revered by Muslims as the place where Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Now, the mosque derives its name from the Quran, referencing the mystical night journey of the Prophet to the Masjid Al-Aqsa, or the farthest mosque. For Muslims, Al-Aqsa ranks as the third holiest site after Mecca and Medina. In Christianity, its importance lies in its Old Testament associations. And simultaneously, it holds the utmost religious significance in Judaism, as it was the site of the two ancient Jewish temples, both destroyed first by the Babylonians and later the second one by the Romans. Now, according to Jewish beliefs, the Mount's destiny is to host a third temple to be constructed when the Messiah, a savior sent by God, arrives. The dynamics surrounding Al-Aqsa have changed dramatically in 1967. When Israel took control of the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem. A delicate status quo was established, allowing Muslims to pray while permitting others as visitors. However, this status quo has been repeatedly violated, most notably through recent arrangements enabling Jewish prayers at the Temple Mount. Now, tensions have often flared into standoffs and clashes, such as the Second Intifada in 2000 and the violent storming of the mosque by Israeli forces during Ramadan in 2021, which culminated in an 11-day conflict between Gaza and Israel. Has become a poignant emblem of their broader struggle, symbolizing their quest for sovereignty and religious freedom. This is why Al-Aqsa is very important in this particular conflict. But even as we talk about the Al-Aqsa, we must focus on how Hamas has alleged that Israel has used phosphorus munitions in Gaza. It's pertinent to understand what these termite munitions are and the harm they cause. White phosphorus, as it's often called, is a wax-like chemical substance which smells like garlic. Now, it's highly flammable and burns very bright on contact with oxygen. It is also very difficult to extinguish and even burns through metal. Now, these phosphorus munitions cause severe burns on skin and can penetrate into the bones and internal organs as well, sometimes even causing death. They aren't classified as a chemical weapon as per the Chemical Weapons Convention, but their use in civilian areas is considered a war crime and is heavily regulated. Now, what are phosphorus munitions? Let's take you through, speed you past the exact facts. Wax-like chemical substance with garlic-like odor. These phosphorus munitions ignite and burn fast and bright on contact with oxygen. They're very difficult to extinguish and stick through clothing and skin, can get down to your internal organs, can even burn through metal, thus high risk for civilians. And the use of phosphorus munition in war isn't banned but heavily regulated. In residential areas, it is certainly a war crime. This is what the Hamas is now alleging. It's saying that the Israeli Defense Forces are using a lot of phosphorus munition as well, targeting residential areas, children, women, and the elderly alike. You can take a look at some of those visuals that have come out as well. Many critics of the Hamas saying that this is nothing but a propaganda that the Hamas is now running. Meanwhile, those visuals that have come out of the various attacks that have carried on do show phosphorus munition-like substances falling from the air, more like hell dropping down on the residents below. Meanwhile, another important aspect that we have to focus on is whether Israel can achieve its goal of complete annihilation of the Hamas after the brutal attacks. Many in Israel have called their attacks akin to ISIS, as Hamas targeted children, women, and the old alike. Israel has previously taken a more cautious approach vis-a-vis Hamas. But after the attacks, even liberal voices within Israel are asking for a definitive solution to Hamas. So can Israel eliminate the Hamas? Hamas is using Israeli hostages as a bargaining chip to deter Israel from going out all against them. The problems Israel faces in tackling Hamas need the IDF to not just go in, but to stay in Gaza to make sure all of Hamas's military capabilities are destroyed. This in itself would mean IDF will have to personally scour every neighborhood, encouraging huge humanitarian costs as well. Israel can go in and destroy Hamas's stockpiles, but it's also necessary to make sure Hamas doesn't build weapons again that can harm Israel. Occupation becomes the only solution in this scenario, and this would incur huge administrative costs, deterring Israel to go in and do that. Complete destruction of Gaza to root out Hamas would likely dampen Israel's image in the world, as they could potentially lose the sympathy they've gained in these attacks. Furthermore, Israel's nascent but growing relationship with Arab states can also likely take a hit if Israel looks to completely destroy Hamas without any concessions. So can Israel eliminate Hamas? That's the big question that people are now trying to understand and ask at this point in time. Meanwhile, shifting our focus, albeit just for a small time, because a conflict that's happening back at home in Manipur is also something that we're going to now focus on. Amidst the ongoing unrest in Manipur, the Committee on Tribal Unity, the COTU, in Southern Hills in Kangpokpi district has taken a step to claim the mortal remains, the bodies of primarily Kuki-Zo people that are currently residing in mortuaries across Imphal. Official records place the blame on civil society organizations, the CSOs, for obstructing the quote-unquote timely disposal of bodies by making decisions on behalf of the deceased's relatives. At this juncture, around 94 bodies, it is being estimated, lay unclaimed in government hospital mortuaries in Imphal and Churachandpur, with 6 of them yet to be identified. Now, while the government authorities in Imphal East District await formal requests from the tribal body, the COTU leadership hasn't really specified the exact number of bodies they intend to claim, but the estimates suggest that there's somewhere over 50. Nevertheless, estimates tell us that it could be around 50, but the Meiteis have already claimed and conducted the last rites for the bodies of their community members from the same mortuaries. In stark contrast, the Kuki-Zo community's deceased still remain in morgues, underscoring the profound fear and insecurity prevailing within the community amid the escalating violence. The tribal organization not only seeks security for the transportation of these bodies, but also advocates for a mechanism to identify the unidentified deceased. The tribal organization's appeal serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of the ongoing conflict. It also highlights the need for robust mechanism to ensure the safety and dignity of all communities in the face of the ethnic strife that began in May this year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this edition. Meanwhile, on the other side, News 9 Live is going to continue to bring you all the latest developments coming out of Israel and Gaza. We have a keen focus and attention on that particular strip and what's happening up north as well, with our boots personally placed on the ground so that we can bring you factual and accurate information. Don't go anywhere. Lots more coming right on the other side. This is Kabir Naqvi signing off. Keep watching News 9 Live.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping